Hello, Mr. Caddy Cad.
I guess you're gonna have to call me back, right?
No, we're going right now, buddy.
Oh yeah. Cool. All right.
How are you this evening?
I'm good, my friend. What do you say?
I am just hanging out. I've actually got a friend coming over, so I don't want to take too much of your time, and I don't want her to have to sit here listening to us talk to each other. So sorry.
Do the hit and run. Do the hit and run.
Well, and here's the thing. I want my listeners to know I've been kind of hucking on Caddy for the last half hour trying to get him on the phone, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation.
Respect, my friend. I've been up and down and been all over the place. I just got in moments ago. I was on the phone clearing up some business and stuff, and you called right in the middle of that. So I'm glad that we were able to clear up that and get to this so we can do this nice thing, you know?
Thank you, thank you. We
Before
go
you
with.
say any,
Sorry.
before you say anything or do anything else, I would just like to commend you and say enough respect for what you're doing, because I know you from the vivid days, like way back there, right? You know, and watched your progression to this point, and to see you doing this, it's a blessing. Enough respect. You keep it up, my brother.
Oh, thank you, man. That really means a lot. I've grown up idolizing you, and I've talked to people about how we meant. You know, I mentor from some of you guys, and now I'm blessed to call you guys my friends, and you're one of those people. And thank you. So, with that, I want to lead in. For those who don't know who Caddy Cat is, he's one of the staples in the Toronto drum and bass community. I believe beginning with Ministry of Sound, and from there, I first heard about you on 89.5, the smooth and luxurious ride of the MC Caddy Cat. And your voice, bar none, was the thing that captured me at first. And then seeing your lyrical content when I went to see you live, it was just unbelievable. And from that day on, I just watched you, I studied you, I wanted to emulate you. And yeah, with that, without making your head too big, let's lead into my questions. This has nothing to do with anything. I just want to loosen things up. Tell me, who's your favorite Spice Girl? You got to pick one of the five.
My,
Who's your favorite?
my favorite Spice Girl?
Yeah,
No, hey.
Sporty Spice. Of course, you'd go for. Oh, wait, hold on. Mel B. Mel B's the other one. I mix up Mel B and Mel C. Mel B, is she the black one?
Mel B is what do they call her? Scary Spice?
Scary. So yeah, exactly. She's the one who was with Eddie Murphy, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Yes, and she is a wild one. I always mix them up, but yes, okay. With that, what was the last song you were listening to before you and I spoke this evening?
The last song that I was listening to, I was listening to actually a Ronnie Size Snapshot earlier.
Wow, throwback.
You know we have a party with Ronnie Size coming up Friday night.
Yes.
So I'm kind of listening to some of his old material and looking at some of the shows that he's done lately and so on. So yeah, that was the one. Snapshot, if I remember correctly. Is it Full Cycle?
Yeah, and I know the song. It is a classic. I didn't know it was Ronnie Size, but I do know the song. I remember it. What? Okay, you're actually one of the few people that said drum and bass was one of the last songs you were listening to, but I guess that is because you're preparing for a show. With that, what was your first rave experience?
That I can tell you quite easily. Funny enough, the one of the gentlemen that's involved in the show that's taking place this weekend, Utopia, his name is Rob DeBoom. Rob DeBoom and a gentleman by the name of The Wiz had a company back in the day called Ministry of Sound. They were doing a party with Kenny Ken and Moose were supposed to come over, right? Dr. No, Marcus Visionary, Sniper, Mystical, there's so many more. Medicine Muffin was on it. I believe Prime at that time he was called Shadow. He was on it. There was a whole bunch of guys. There's also some names that I can't even remember as we speak right now. But that was my very first party, and how it ended up happening was I was doing a R&B, hip hop, and reggae party during Caravana, and those guys were passing on Richmond Street. There was a club called the Granite Lounge at the time. They were passing by the club. We were in there doing our thing, and like it was crazy because they had like 2 busloads of Americans in there, and you know how Americans party, right? So they were going crazy. These guys came in and watched us doing what we were doing, and approached me and said, "Well, listen, we like what you do. Could you do this to drum and bass, right? Jungle music." And I said, "Well, I'm not really familiar with it, Open my eyes, and once they let me hear it, I met Dr. No, and then the rest was history.
The rest is
And
history.
I did that very first party, and I've never looked back. I've been a raver ever since.
Yeah, and the thing, I met you, and I guess I'll cheat and say that I know a lot of the answers to these questions, but you guys don't, my listeners don't, and your story is one that sticks out to me because it wasn't until your later years that you actually got familiar with drum and bass music. Before that, you were an R&B, or not R&B, but a reggae artist, and you were
Well, actually, you're correct. R&B, hip-hop, and reggae.
And you were able to use that influence and perfectly mend it with a new sound. And to be honest, it's like peas and carrots, man. Like I just don't picture one without the other. I don't picture Toronto Jungle without Caddy Cat. And I know I came into the scene in '99. I believe you started in '97, and I've only known drum and bass with Caddy Cat, but I just can't imagine it without him. And your voice, your flow, your presence, your spirit, your vibe, everything about you, it just encapsulates what Toronto Jungle is. And
with you saying that pertaining to me, I just have to say this. There's a gentleman by the name of El Natural who is no longer in the scene. He's been out of it for a little while. And the same way that you look at me is the same way I look at him. Because when I came in, he did everything in his power to get me up to speed and to help me to make my progression and make it comfortable. Because when I came over, that first night that we just spoke about at Ministry of Sound, I was kind of incorrectly informed about how I should approach drum and bass, right? Now, when I heard the music, that night when I heard it, I'm hearing it on this huge sound system, big place, and it is, like, back in those days, when they put a sound system in a warehouse, it's a sound system, right? So what I was told is, when you don't hear any vocals, go in. Do what you do when you're at a reggae party, when you don't hear any vocals. And all I could hear was bass lines, so all night long I was going in, right? And I didn't realize that there were vocals being played because all I could hear was the bass lines, right? So over a period of time, rolling with El Natural, he kind of helped me and showed me, okay, this. He, Marcus, Mystical, and Lush, guided me and kind of molded me and showed me different videos to watch and listen to these kind of tapes and introduced me to the right kind of individuals that would complement me as an artist in this scene. And here we are today.
And I want to say one of the best compliments I ever heard of you was in 2002, I believe, Soundclash 2, where you went back to back with Shaba, and it was just the two of you were freestyling the whole night. Like, maybe some of it was written, but the way you guys were going back oh my God, you guys just did. To this day, I still throw that tape on. I stream it now off YouTube or whatever, but that it's flawless. It's just one of the greatest combos. All right, with that, I want to jump into another fun question. Is your pager still alive?
It's funny. The pager is still alive, but I don't use it. I haven't used it for ages.
If I call the number, do I get to hear the ding-a-ling-a-linga?
Actually, I think what I'm going to have to do for you especially and specifically is I'm going to call you and I'm going to inbox that
I would love it.
I'm going to inbox that message to you.
I would love it. You know how much I love that. I used to call it so much just to play it for people. I now want to take, let's step back for a second. I want to talk about El Natural for a second. With me doing these videos, I've had numerous people ask me if I'm going to talk to him. And what I can say to people who care to know, what Caddy said is all I know. El Natural, a few years ago, from what I was told, moved out east, and he's got a family now. He's kind of stepped away from the music scene, and his priorities and focus in life have changed. He is not reachable, and I've reached out through methods like Mr. Caddy Cat right now, saying to people, listen, let him know what we're doing, and if he'd like to share his story, I'd be blessed to have him on. you're definitely right in saying that he's one of the staples of our scene. And I grew up, mentoring from you and idolizing you. But there definitely was no Toronto scene without Al Natural. One that comes to mind right away, like Catch and Wreck. He was the man behind a lot of the sounds people don't realize. Like they put Lance as an MC, and that set he did with Andy C. I remember at Turbo when they did the Body Rock premiere. Like he ran that set. But aside as an MC, he was an amazing producer. He was like you say, a mentor to a lot of other people. And even DJ Lush had told me at times when I'd say, "Oh, dude, that tune you made was done," he'd be like, "Dude, that was Lance. That wasn't me. That was him."
Yeah.
But Lance wouldn't take the credit. It would say Catch and Wreck, DJ Lush, El Natural. It wasn't. He was a humble man, and he is a humble man, I should say. Like
look at it this way, equally. This is why when you paid me that compliment, I had to share that with him, because without him, I'm not saying it would have been impossible for me to get in, right? But to be able to grasp it and to catch it as quickly as I did, it was Marcus, Lush, and him. And I used to hang out with him a lot, right? We used to do a lot of parties together. He was the first person to get me into the door to become a resident at Cyrus, right? So all those things, you have to, I can't ever forget him.
And we never will. We never will.
Never forget El Natural. And the scene, Toronto scene, they should, if they have never heard about him, we should not let his name go without mention. And there's a lot more artists, drum and bass and jungle here, that go without mention, that also should not end up not mentioned somewhere along the line. It's nice that us guys are here doing what we're doing now, and it's great that we've been doing it from the time, because I'm not even one of the originals. I came in the middle somewhere, and a lot of people have me as one of the originals. I'm not even one of the originals. I mean, there's Dr. No, there's Gadget from back in the day, there's there's so many.
Medicine Muffin I put as one of the originals.
So many other MCs that were in the city here.
MCs Swindle, I think of. Remember Rude Boy MC. The guys I grew up listening to, in my opinion, when you go back and listen to the tapes, might not have had the best of lyrical content or stage presence or any of the things that guys nowadays have, but they paved the path. Like, I don't want to shit on a guy like MC Moose because I love the guy, but at the end of the day, I've got to admit he isn't the greatest MC. That's in my opinion. I listen to him and I'm like, he's fun and he's cool to watch, but I wouldn't pay a $1,500 booking fee his flight and hope to make that back at my door. Like, I can do that with an MC Dad or a Skibbity or even an MC Caddy Cat, but you respect the guy so much for the path he paved for everybody else. And
well, here's the thing with Moose, right? And there are some other veterans that are similar to Moose. There's a style that those guys brought to the music that had nothing to do with lyricism. It had to do with connecting the music to the people and the people to the DJ, because the DJ is playing. His voice is not vocal. His voice is instrumental in him doing his mixes, right? So if you're not a DJ that actually sits down and goes through your set every day leading up to the actual day that you're playing to say, well, I want to say something with each one of these songs to the people that are listening. So by the title, this is what I'm saying. So use all these titles to say this to these people. So they're not able to do that sometimes because they come in and they're just rocking with what they see in front of them. So they might have to go into this section of their crate, then go over into that section of the crate, then end up in the middle of the crate. So Moose and the MCs that were like Moose tied things together, not by being lyricists, but being vibes creators, and then also being the glue that would hold that to that. You know what I mean?
I do. And you know what you're talking is it's almost nostalgic in a sense. I don't know if we have guys that are trying to make that sense of unity between MC, DJ, and crowd. Another MC, as you were speaking, that I thought of was MC 5-0. He's another guy that does that style of... and I get you, Caddy. On a deep level, I get you. But I once again, on a capitalistic level, I can't say that there's a consensus that is large enough that would make a monetary gain based on that perspective. Not that it's not true, but that's a deep poetic stance. And the sadly, the average raver isn't that invested, I guess, or that knowledgeable. And I don't want to shit on people. I shouldn't say the average raver. My opinion, my perspective of the world is, if I was making a booking, I wouldn't aim for that type of a performance anymore. And because of that, we're losing it.
Okay, now you see exactly what you said is why when parties are being put together, right? And you can't really blame the promoter, because what the promoter has to do, he's got some coin and he's trying to put together something to flip that coin and not lose his shirt and his pants to do an event, right? So when he's doing it, he's putting it together to say, okay, what will the crowd come and pay their money to see, have a good time, and also make me some money in the meantime of me doing something like that, right?
Sure.
Now, at that same time, you flip it around again and say, okay, there's different aspects of the culture and different aspects of the scene that we're in. Our scene, right, is something that is kind of different than a lot of other scenes because it's mixed and matched and made up of so many different genres. There's a little hip hop here, a little reggae there, a little calypso there, a little, country here, a little you'd be surprised what they take and inject into the music to get the music, right? Now, when I hear it, that's why I fit in so easily when I came in, because a lot of the music that I was hearing was all old school reggae and R&B and hip hop that I grew up on. So I didn't feel out of place when I heard it. I wasn't even going off of the beats that were being laid. I was going off of the samples that I was hearing, because I was familiar with all the samples.
I get that. I get what you're saying. And like your style is unique within its own. There's nobody I would compare you to. And it's definitely because you're heavily influenced before you entered the scene. A lot of our MCs are drum and bass MCs first,
right. Yeah.
Or they're hip hop MCs. You were definitely not those. I know you say you were hip hop, R&B, and reggae. To me, you have a very host's approach and reggae sound with drum and bass, and then you've somehow mended that. That makes you unique. And going back to what you were saying there about what promoters do, and there's maybe a skewed perception in what would make a party fun, I would agree with you. I hope promoters take that risk, because I did it when I was promoting. I'm not promoting much these days. I hope I get back into it. But I did realize that sometimes it isn't about booking a headliner that everyone's heard of. It's about throwing a good party. And when you become a promotion company that is known for throwing a good party, people stop looking at your lineups. And they begin just paying your door charge because they know when they come inside, you're going to have a good atmosphere. That bill's going to be filled with talented people that are going to put on a good performance, and you're going to make some fun amenities around, whether it's whistles. And I was just talking to Mr. Brown about Soul in Motion and some of the things they did to spice up the party. Most recently, what Marcus and Brown are doing with the massive stuff, with throwing the warehouse parties. That's really cool, and that stuff goes beyond the lineup. Not to say that the lineups aren't great, but you don't need to go out and pump money into 4 flight tickets in a hotel room to think that you're going to get a turnaround. With that, I want to jump into my next question here. Kind of goes towards what we were just saying, which is utilizing your voice and your lyrical flow. Definitely the two things that make you who you are. Where does it come from? What are your biggest influences?
Well, to be really honest, just everything that came before, like all of the nostalgia, is where I came from. I came from the Motown era. I came from the original dance hall, original reggae dance hall type of scenery, right? And with the Motown, that's where I get my presence, where the mic is kind of the positioning of the mic and being able to project the voice. That's watching Marvin Gaye and artists such as Marvin Gaye and others like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The dance hall thing, well, that's the West Indian side of my upbringing, and all the rest of it is just everything that I've seen and been a part of leading up to becoming a drum and bass MC. And actually, leading up to becoming a drum and bass MC, what I was doing was hosting. A lot of what I was doing was hosting up until rap era came in. So that's why for me now, being in drum and bass hosting is not a good to me, because that's what I was doing when I was doing R&B and way back in the day when we started. It didn't start out with rap. It started out with just being on the mic saying, ladies and gentlemen, we're glad that you're here. You're being entertained by this DJ. You need to go to the washroom. The washrooms are located over there. And if you need drinks and refreshments, they're all located over there. Have a good time. That's all we would be saying all night long. And whatever we could, if there were little catchphrases that we might make up to kind of get everybody in the groove, and everything had to do with connecting you to the DJ and connecting the DJ to you and the music. And that was it. Then rapping came in and everybody started to, sharpen up their utensils and arm themselves with lyrics. And back then, it wasn't lyrics that were talking about anything other than having fun at a party.
Totally. And that's one thing I really notice I try and tell people, this isn't a defined definition, this is my definition. I say there is a difference between rapping and MCing. Typically, MCs are talking about the crowd or bigging up. Like I say, Notorious B.I.G. was an MC to me, whereas Tupac was a lyrical rapper.
Yeah.
And I know that there's no definition, but to me that's deep in that I'm an MC, I'm not a rapper. My job is to compliment the DJ and, like you say, make the crowd have a connection towards the music that's being played for them. At times I will chat, which to the ignorant ear, they'd say, you're rapping right now. And I'd be like, no, listen to the words. I'm talking about moving and grooving and mixing and blending. I'm not talking about my mom or my daddy issues, or, you know what I mean? That's not to say that there's not a place for it, but that's not what I do. And that's why I consider myself an MC, not a rapper.
Okay. Yeah.
What I want to ask you is, when did you first pick up a microphone?
Whoa. Let me think. That would have been in 1975 or 76.
Do you remember where you were? Like, what caused it?
What caused, or how did it end up that I ended up MCing?
No, just like the first. Was it in your bedroom and then you got your first booking, or were you at a club one day and somebody handed you a mic?
No. Actually, it was at a club. It was at a club. Like, what happened was, a couple of my friends were active DJs, and they used to do, back in the day, you used to have day parties and after school parties, and
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, they used to do those things, and one night they were doing a party at a little club, just school kids kind of thing, right? And it just ended up that I ended up hosting, just because I was always able to speak. I'm not shy to talk, so I ended up hosting for them, and then that was it from there, because that they actually turned into a very popular sound system that was being city for a long time in Toronto when it came to R&B, hip hop, and reggae.
Well, I guess you utilized your voice, because we're probably talking your mid-teens, late teens maybe, so your voice had already developed, and you were probably, if I'm not mistaken, that's when you probably realized you had a voice that could command a crowd, right?
Oh, no, this is not even mid-teens, brother. This is what, 14? Yeah, about 14. Yeah, about 14, and then like 15, I was right in it. At 15, I was at this club that they used to have right beside the new city hall, right behind the new city hall. They had a club back there they called Hagerman's.
Okay.
And we were in there. We lived in that place. Sound system by the name of Sunshine, sound system by the name of Maceo, Enchantment, and there were a couple other sound systems that we used to play in. But that's where it all started for us guys.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then one thing led to another, and then years after years, did the R&B, and that circuit for a while, and I stopped for a period of time. Then I came back and started doing reggae, just pure reggae. Stopped again, came back, kind of was doing more mature clientele parties, and then Ministry of Sound found me. Did the first party February the 15th, the 16th, 1997 was the very first party I did. And from that day, I've been a drum and bass MC.
Well, and that kind of perfectly leads into my next question. Second last one, Caddy, and then I'll let you go. What are the biggest changes you've noticed in the drum and bass scene from 97 to today?
The biggest changes?
Yeah.
One of the most important that I've noticed is the elimination to some degree of the 19 minus and 19 plus events, all ages.
Elaborate, please. What do you mean? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, back in the day, you had all ages parties. You had 19 plus that were drinking age, right? And you had, I call them 19 minus, right? So anybody under the age of 19, right? But they were still allowed to come to the parties. They were just separated, right? And with that, what would happen is you had the 19 plus and the 19 and older that were in it, had been in it, and they were getting ready to do other things. So, you know, they've been with the same girl for X amount of years. Now they may have started a family, started working. So these people are now leaving, right? You're harvesting the next set or the next crop of drum and bass and jungle crowd to come in and fill these spaces that are going to be left vacant, right? That doesn't happen anymore. So a lot of the people that are coming into the rave scene, and this is no disrespect, because this is not a judgment on anybody. It's just a, you know, like you said, you're asking a question. I'm just answering to the best of my ability. You would have ravers now that come into the scene and they've never raved before. Someone like myself, right? So they don't actually know what it's all about, and they're not actually thinking about going back and checking the history to see what's going on up to this point and now from here to the future, right? So what's missing is the tie from the old days to the new days to go to the future.
Well, I want to defend what you're saying right now, in that when I did promote, and I hope to again, every party I threw was all ages. And my point had nothing to do. I would promote it to the people who wanted to invest with me and say, guys, this is our future. Everything you're kind of saying, which is, how are we ever going to have a future if we don't allow the kids of tomorrow to come to today's events? But for also the fact that it's a lot harder for me to work a deal with a club where I'm going to monitor their bar. I can make money at the door and say, that door's mine. And the only way I can do that with a bar is with all ages. Otherwise, if I'm doing 19 plus, chances are I'm not paying for the club for the most part, or you're paying a very small fee. But then you're playing the bar game. And that's usually, you have to hit a certain level, and if you hit that you don't owe them more money, and then if you hit more, you get a bonus. But it's like, who's going to monitor that? It's hard for me to quantify all those variables. So it's a lot easier for me as a promoter to throw an all ages event, pay a premium, because that's what the bars end up doing to you, is they say, well, if you're gonna have kids in here, I have to A, you know, have bigger security, and B, not sell as much alcohol, so you're gonna pay for that. So you do,
Right.
But you make it back at the door. These kids pay, and they are our future. I'm just worried that today, if I threw a party like I did in, let's say, 2003, I wouldn't get the turnout like I used to. And that's a fear.
Well, you know what? The chances and the possibility of not getting the crowd that you hope for is always, I mean, even with the best show that you can put together, that's like rolling the dice. You don't know what's going to happen until you roll them, right? But a lot of that has to do with your promotion. But then again, take it a step further than that. It's very difficult for you to do an all ages party these days, because if you have to do it in a club, it has to be 19 plus, because there's alcohol in there, and they're not allowed to have the underages in there at the same time, right? Very few club owners are willing to take that risk.
Yeah, it's a liability.
as much as it's a risk for you, it's an even bigger risk for the club owner, right? So you're not, even if you were thinking that, a lot of clubs will shoot you down before you even get to the door with that idea.
Well, and that's why I'm going to be throwing my next party at Chuck E. Cheese. Featuring DJ Marcus and MC Caddy Cad. Okay. With that, I'm going to lead into my last question here. This is my infamous vault question. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate our rave culture, what would those 5 items be?
Okay. For me, the first one I would say would be a flyer that definitely had El Nacho's name on it and a lot of the old school original pioneers that set the foundation. That would be the first one. The second one would be, and I'm being selfish here, the very first rave that I appeared at, which was the Ministry of Sound, because that was my introduction to this whole thing. Next one would be the Skiba, Shy Effects, and Fearless on Marcus's Prophecy.
You're not the first one to say that. I think you're the second one. I think MCZ threw that in as well. It is.
That's 100% a staple.
And hold on, sorry to cut you off. I screwed up the opening line when I said it to Z. I think the way it starts is "This is how we do," and it's just MC.
That's Fearless saying that.
Yes, rolling with the prophecy, 89.5. This is how we do. Okay, sorry, that was 3. That was 3.
Bad Man Shy drops the helicopter. Oh, that was crazy.
Yes.
Okay, so that one. Then something Vinyl Syndicate and Eastern Bloc related, because those guys, man, without Vinyl Syndicate, Cyrus, Eastern Bloc, Canada wouldn't be on the map as far as the recognition is concerned. Can't leave out Mystical, Sniper, the whole Vinyl Syndicate family, and the whole Dose, Life Force, all of that. Something that has everything involving that in it, so that has to go in there. And finally, because I'm at number 4 now, right?
Yeah, the one last thing.
One last thing. I think let me think. Okay, for the future, something that has A to Z, and all of the present and the future that's taking place now. Because the future of drum and bass is happening right now with Z and all those men and D2, all those guys. Yeah, something to involve them as well.
I love it. I think that's a great 5. And one thing I want to say to encapsulate what you were talking about with Vinyl Syndicate and the Cyrus guys, I think just any street sign from Heart Lake, just put that in, and I think that would encapsulate all of them, right? You get the whole.
You know why it had to be a bit more specific, and that's why I kind of actually mentioned the things that I would like, that particular aspect of my offering to the capsule, because you have to mention those, like to just say Heart Lake, it doesn't actually tell you who and what. If you say Vinyl Syndicate, then you kind of get a little deeper, and then you're going to go Vinyl Syndicate. What's Vinyl Syndicate? Who's Vinyl Syndicate? And then you'll hear, Robbie, you'll hear all of the gentlemen that are involved in their, Sniper, Mystical, Big Joe, all of that good stuff. You know what I mean? Like if we just say Brampton, then it's open to any and everything.
I get you profoundly. I get you. And the name Robbie, I love that you throw it. I remember the first time I heard of Robbie, it was like the first time I heard of the Nemesis, and it was like, who's that? And I remember 3 people kind of turning their heads at me like, you don't know who that is, man? Learn, educate yourself. These are guys that.
Rob Leafy.
Sorry, go ahead.
Rob. No, I said Rob Leafy. Remember the name.
But Caddy, with that, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. My goal is to get this setup improved a little bit better, and when I do, I hope you'll take another 30 minutes to chat with me again sometime.
Not a problem. And listen, like I'm saying, and like I said at the start of this, keep doing what you're doing, love what you're doing, and it's important for something, a platform of this nature, to be of existence, because what you're doing is taking the old, bringing it and bonding it to the new, and building what is going to be the future.
Thank you, and that's my goal, is to just give a voice to you guys, give a voice to the artists, and connect the artists with the audience. So thank you for helping me do that.
Respect, my friend.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Caddy.
You too.
All right.
My blessed love.
Hey, okay, there he was. Thank you guys, as always. Caddy, thank you for doing that. He's a legend, man. Toronto Jungle will not ever be the same since he's been in it. So, as always, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to keep these coming, guys. If you have any requests, somebody that you'd actually like me to talk to, or if you're somebody you'd like me to talk to, hit me up, man. I don't know everybody. I only know the guys I grew up playing with and doing this with, and I'm out of touch, I have to admit. People mention names to me, and I don't know them. So I'd love to meet new people, love to talk to them. So let me know. But until next time, as always, peace out.